What's up, Inkie peeps? It's Adele from Inkie Quill, and today I've got a triple art journaling process video for you. There's an art journal layout and two layouts in my junk journal, and I wanted to have a little look at how to create movement or direct the eye throughout your art journal pages. Now, this is something that I think works best in a larger scale journal, not an itty bitty teeny tiny one. And so this journal is my 8x8 inch dilutions creative journal, and I was working on a spread and I went immediately for the black paint. Ugh. I'm glad I did, because I just wanted to get it on and slap it down there. But this first journal page, I wanted to show how you can create different panels across your art journal spread to let the eye rest on one panel and then move to the center one and then move to the final one. I find that odd numbers often look better on the eye than even numbers, so I went with 3. It's kind of a fourth one, but it blends into the third one. 3 distinct boxes or sections. I have got the black paint obviously in the center, and then I've used some matte gel medium to stick down this floral page out of a Frankie magazine, and then I'm matching the same yellow color on the left hand side. So I think the trick to this is to pick one main colour that you want to work with. Mine is yellow for this page, and kind of bookend your art journal spread with those two colours, and then do something neutral, or you could go with black if you want to be a bit daring in the centre, so that there's a really contrasting distinction between the first section of this girl taking off her jumper on the yellow paper, then you've got the black, and then you've got the yellow floral, so they all kind of stand out from each other. So I thought that I wanted to add one other colour, but just have it kind of subtle in here. So I grabbed some beautiful blue tissue paper that a subscriber sent me, and I've been using this blue tissue paper a lot lately. It's really handy to have because it's got that little bit of purple, but it's not too purpley. It blends in with a lot of the colours that I use. And I also have put this little woman, I shouldn't say girl, she's a woman, down here as well. And the reason why I put her there is because her eyes are looking into the art journal page, and it just helps promote your eye when you're looking at it, look across the page. So then the black was looking very, very bold in the center here, and I needed something to calm it down a little bit. So I am doing a floral stencil with some white gesso. Whenever I want to do white paint on top of a darker colored paint, I usually use gesso, just because it's a little bit thicker and just a little bit more opaque than my normal white dilutions paint is. The reason why I did the florals in the white, because I thought it would tie in quite well with the white of those daisies on the right hand side. And then I just wanted to echo a little bit of it up on this top left hand corner. And when I'm stenciling, I'm trying to work in a diagonal way so that your eye is drawn across the diagonal of the florals and just further promote you looking across the page from left to right. So here is where I'm at so far, and I'm trying to figure out if I can squeeze in more florals somewhere, and I decide not to, but then I grab a circle stencil because I just felt like I needed another little pop of yellow, and by tracing it on top of parts that were already yellow, it was a subtle way to add some stenciling without having to add a whole chunk of paint and cover up the pretty flowers there. So I've got a yellow Posca paint pen, and I'm just tracing my circles around here, there and everywhere. and a little bit on the black. So it's all about working in this left to right, 3 large blocks, and then everything that I'm doing has kind of a 45-degree diagonal positioning, I guess you could say, so that everything flows from the left hand bottom corner of the spread up to the right hand corner. I hope that makes sense. I'm doing all sorts of hand actions that of course you guys can't see right now, but in my mind it's making sense. So this left hand page, I had actually cut out the like a word or something from the other side of this paper and used it for a different project. And when I was going through my magazine to find something yellow, I came across this, and I just thought it was really cool that it was cut out of her torso, and I just thought that was a fun kind of design element to include. My flowers were looking very white, and I grabbed my black Pilot G2 in the 0.7 or 0.7 size, and I'm just outlining them, but I'm leaving, because of course there's no point outlining it with black because it's kind of outlined in black because it's got a black background. So I just indented the outline a little bit, and I really love the way that looks. I'm including a little bit of that blue because I had some on that left hand side that I hadn't repeated anywhere else. Just put in a bit here, there, and everywhere. And I knew that I wanted to write something on that middle panel. I wanted to do some sort of quote, and of course you're probably sick of hearing about her or seeing me do her quotes, but Morgan Harper Nichols on Instagram has some beautiful words. She's a fabulous writer in that she just writes really lovely little things that kind of remind you that it's okay to have a bad day, or it's okay that everything's not perfect, but just to relish in the little moments of light and the little moments of happiness. And so I thought this was a good one to put. Must have been how I was feeling at this time. And I just am writing that with, I wanted a little bit of blue up the top. I must have filmed this. I filmed this actually a couple of months ago, and then I filmed the last 2 parts of this process video yesterday or today. No, it was today. Today has been a long day. I filmed them today, and so I must have been at a point of worrying when I wrote this quote down. But I really love the way this page came together, and it's actually one of my faves in this art journal. So this art journal is completely finished now, and I filmed a flip through, I think, or if I haven't, I'm going to, and the flip through will be on YouTube, but I didn't want to put the flip through up until I had done all of the process videos. I've still got a few process videos from this journal for YouTube, I do believe, as well. But I just wanted to kind of focus on creating movement across pages, because when there's a bit of a formula to follow, sometimes it's easier for a page to come together. So if you want to, what's the name for when you get ideas and inspiration from a scrapbook layout? It's called a scrap lift. But what's it called from an art journal? Let's call it a journal lift. If you want to journal lift this layout, this spread, I should say, I would work with 3 large panels across your page, not all the same size. You can see that middle one's a lot thinner than the others. And then bookend your art journal page with the same colour. So I've got yellow on the left and yellow on the right. So that's the first spread done. Now we're on to the junk journal. So I did share a little sneak peek of my latest junk journal over on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't really done, this was the first proper layout that I've done in it actually. I've slapped some paint on some random pages, but I haven't actually done a page. That's a scary page right there. Oh, that was a jelly transfer at a class gone very horribly wrong, so that she will be covered up, don't worry. But I found this picture and I just thought that it was a really interesting picture in a magazine and I wanted to do something with it. However, I'm going to preface this with I did something in this page that I couldn't cover up. You know how I always say you can always cover it up? Well, sometimes you can't, and you'll see why when we get to it. I wish I hadn't done it. Aaron thinks that it needed it. Like I said at the end, I showed him, whenever I film a whole bunch of videos, I show him what I did at the end of the day, like a 5-year-old coming home with schoolwork and awards to show their mum and dad. I show Aaron all the things I made today. And he said that it definitely needed what I did to it. But I'm not completely sold. But you know what? It's done. I had fun making it and I like it. It's just I may have done things differently another time. So the 2 pages that I'm working on today are old vintagey book pages and they're very, very glossy, like very glossy, which was handy because I wanted to do an ombre paint mixing going down my page, but I wanted to do it lightly so that you could still see what was on the page behind. I haven't primed these pages with gesso, haven't done anything to them, literally just opened up the book and let a rip with the paintbrush. I'm using a few different tones of white and pink from the Dilutions paints, and working quickly while the paint is still wet, I'm able to blend them out and make a pretty sunsetty ombre kind of background. The reason why they blended so well was because that paper is so glossy. This would not work on normal book paper or like the thin dictionary book paper. It wouldn't blend as easily, only because of the paper type. So then I wanted to stick my image down first before adding any stenciling pieces to it, and I really wanted her to be smack bang in the middle of the page because I wanted to do a different type of movement for this one. For this page, I wanted to focus on a bit of a circular movement, or it's more of a semicircle around the page instead of going across the page. I wanted to start smack bang in the middle and then work your way around the page. So for that, I am using, of course, my fave matte gel medium, and I'm sticking that down. I know I've talked about it before, but if you find that you buy a medium like gesso or gel medium that you try and you don't like, don't give up straight away. Try a different brand, because I've had that same thing happen to me, particularly with gel medium. I tried one a while ago. I think could have been Matisse brand. Nothing against it. It just isn't what I needed, and it made me want to give up using it altogether. And I then went back to using the Liquitex. I think I only bought it because it was either cheaper or I couldn't get the other one that I usually get, and I absolutely hated it. It didn't stick anything down. It didn't work the way that I'm used to it working. And same with gesso. I've used some gessos that are really, really gritty. I've used some that are not very opaque. I've used some that are really runny, some that are too thick. So just play around, and wherever possible, buy a small sized bottle if you can, or test out a friend. If a friend has got some, ask if you can, instead of borrowing a cup of sugar, ask if you can borrow a tablespoon's worth of matte gel medium and see if you like it, because they do add, they are quite a pricey thing to add to your stash. So then I wanted to add some stenciling to join the focal image in with the background, and so I just grabbed this floral one. I'm not sure of the brand though, sorry. And I wanted to do it in white because I knew I wanted to do some writing around her head, and if I had done this in a darker colour, it would have been difficult to write on with pen. I I didn't want the writing to stand out too much, and so I wanted to do white stenciling with white pen. I don't necessarily want the quote to be perfectly legible. I'm happy for it to be a bit difficult to read, and because I want the quote there more for the fact that there's text on the page. So then, you'll see also that I just chucked some baking paper, some waxed paper underneath my pages. I like to do that in my journals when there's, especially junk journals, when there's different sized papers, and I don't want to get paint on the other papers. I'm using my Sharpie white water-based paint pen, which is my favourite paint pen, but they've discontinued the extra fine tip and it's driving me nuts. So I think this is medium, and it's the only one I can get my hands on, but it's too wide. I don't like it. Well, I like it, but I like the other one more, and it's very frustrating that I keep finding things like Heidi Shine and this perfect paint pen, and they discontinue them. Typical, isn't it? So then I'm doing a quote by my fave gal, Morgan Harper Nichols, once again, and I'm writing it around her head, and you can see I'm just turning the book so that I can get everything written. I didn't measure. I was kind of just hoping for the best, that it would fit. I looked at the quote and I looked at the halfway point on the quote to figure out, okay, I need to be up to about this word by the time I get to the top of her head. And then I halved that again. You can see I made a mistake there, and because the paper's nice and shiny, I was just able to smush it out and write over the top again. So I went for the halfway point for the quote, and then I went a quarter and kind of worked out roughly how big my writing could be. So here's where things go a little bit pear-shaped, and I wish I had put the white gel pen down. I did this on another video recently, and I think at the time I was kind of hesitant as well, but it worked out, and I was like, it's okay. You felt the same way then. It's okay, but I just don't know. I don't know if I like it. I did some swirly bits in her hair, and then I did her eyelashes and her eyebrows, and I think it's got a little hairy, a little crazy, and I mean, it does really make her pop. I admit that. I think it's also because her hair is so flat at the top. It's a centre part. There's no like sweeping fringe. I think this would look a lot better if she had a sweeping fringe, but there wasn't. And yeah, I don't know. I'm still growing to like this. And then I wanted to do some stripy bits because I thought that might help. I do like it better with the stripy bits, but yeah, then I accidentally totally stuffed up outlining her hairline at the top there on the right, and I overcompensated by doing a really large bit, but now she just looks like she's bumped her head and has a bit of an egg on her head. We'll call this girl Egghead. She's a lovely lass. She's just a bit confused with her hair at the moment. So then, look, here we go. White eyebrows. She's a bit stressed. She's got a few grey hairs. And then let's just go all out. Let's go the eyelashes, the pupils. I almost did the nostrils, but I restrained myself. And then her cupid's bow or a tiny hairy moustache, either way you want to look at it. And then I was just like, okay, put the pen down. Leave the pen now. But not before I write one final word down the bottom here. And then I was like, okay, I need something a little bit to redeem this page a little bit. We need a bit of colour. She's looking a bit like a sad Coachella girl that's just cried her eyes out because someone's wearing the same outfit as her, and I needed to fix it up. So I grabbed some pink acrylic ink, the Liquitex brand, and I just went all out. I was splashing to my heart's content. Usually I get a little scared with dark pink splatters just because they can look a little bit red, like blood splatters. And so when I we went crazy splat over there. Whenever I try to use pink, I do sometimes soak it up a little bit with paper towel just to calm things down a little bit. But I didn't this time. We went full with our emotions and this page is done. So you can see here, it's a completely different way that your eye moves around the page, starting at her face, and then you kind of follow the text all around her head. This is really simple to journal lift with your own image. You could draw a face, you could stamp a face, you could stick a face on, you could do a scrapbook layout and do a photo even. Ooh, what do you guys think of that? What if I did a video of scrap lifting art journal pages that I've done? So using inspiration from an art journal page and turning it into a scrapbook page, or vice versa. Would you like that? Let me know, because that's something I think that would be really fun. I might have to write down that idea because baby brain's going to make me forget that very soon. So next up, I wanted to show you I recently did a scrapbook layout actually at the retreat that I went to recently, and it had one 4x6 photo and then 3 smaller photos next to it. And I really liked the way that my eye moved across the page, because there was that large image and the smaller ones, and it kind of just followed it across the page. And so I wanted to do that with this art journal page. So this is literally the next page of my junk journal. I've just opened it up. I usually don't do this, in that if I'm doing 2 consecutive pages in a journal, I'll usually do one at the front and then open up to somewhere down the back of the journal, just so that I try to space out my journal pages and not work from page 1 to page 80 or whatever's in here, and just so that they don't get too chunky at the start, because then it gets really hard to work on at the end for those final pages when one side of your journal is so thick and chunky and the other side is barely able to open. So that's a top tip. If you're having trouble with your journal, try to work in the front and the back and just randomly all over the place. For this one, I do wish that I had moved these photos up a little bit, but I didn't, so we're just rolling with it. I cut these out of a fashion magazine. I'm just using my glue stick this time. The reason why I'm using my glue stick is because that graph paper is very, very finicky. It's super thin and it doesn't quite like matte gel medium. It kind of crinkles things when you stick them on with matte gel medium. And so I knew with a glue stick I'd be able to get a less crinkled face, because it's not really what you want when you're sticking a face down. You don't really want someone to have extra horns and facial features that they don't have by doing a bit of a dodgy job sticking it down. On this left side, I had put a giant bit of blue paint. I think it was from my jelly plate maybe, and it needed something. It was pretty blue. It was very blue. So I grabbed this stencil and some periwinkle blue dilutions paint. Usually when I stencil, I don't like to have a bold line around the outside of my stencil to make it look. I like to blend the stencil in a little bit and have, I hate this word, but organic edges, and not have things so blocky. However, this spread had a lot of blocky elements. It had all of those black and white photos, it had the coloured photo, it had the image on the right, which was doors and stairs, and there were a lot of lines, and so I thought I'd just go with that. And I did this whole big panel of these leaves over here, and I freaking love the way it turned out. I absolutely love it, and it's definitely something that I will do again. I can't even remember a time that I've ever actually done that with a stencil and stenciled the whole thing with all of the edges showing. I don't know if I've done that, but I do really like the way that it looks. And then to carry across the blue so that your eye goes from left to right, I wanted to just put a little bit on the right hand side as well. So then it's time to stick down my 3 pictures, and I worked from this one first because I knew that I wanted it to be, the height of it to be above the coloured photo, and so I thought that was a good one to stick on first. And then I wanted the first photo to overlap the middle photo, so I stuck down the middle one next, and I'm just sticking them on top of like a scrap piece of paper, just so that I don't get my book all sticky. And then this final one down, and I do like that this still had the torn edge of the magazine. It was just a little happy accident that happened to be there. Just sticking down those extra images. I'm just using a Boss stick, I think it's called a blue stick, BLU, because it goes on blue, so you can see where you glue it, and then it dries clear, which is, if you're wondering why it's blue. Is Boss stick, I don't know if Boss stick's around everywhere, if it's Aussie, I'm not quite sure, but it's one of our 2 main glue stick companies that I know of are Boss stick and UHU, UHU, and they're the 2 that I typically buy. I prefer the Boss sticks because UHU have a screw lid, and I'm forever getting that guy chunked up with glue, and then it just becomes a nightmare to try and take the lid off. So they're my glue of choice. Then I am, once again, my girl, Morgan. I'm just going to call her Morgan now because I feel like I've written so many of her quotes that I'm on first term basis with her, writing down one of her quotes and putting that there. And it was a quote that was just about, what was it about? Remember the roads that, it's about the journey and not about focusing on the bad, but thinking about the journey and how you got here. And I just thought it matched these pictures because this girl looked like she was pondering some really big life things and felt a bit maybe scared with her life choices or something. I just thought the quote matched. I wasn't particularly feeling this today when I wrote it, but I just thought it suited the pictures. So I'm just writing that down, and you can see straight away. So there's a couple of things on this page that I think help move your eye movement from one side to the other. The first thing is definitely using a bold colour on the left and then echoing a tiny bit of it on the right, because straight away you turn the page and you're like blue, and then your eye goes across and you're like little bit of blue. So your eye's already going from one side to the other. Next, I think having a series of images, you could do this with photos, you could do this on a scrapbook page, or some sort of focal image. You could do it with even just with 4 different stars of different shapes and sizes. It doesn't have to be a person, but to have something that is stuck down a little bit haphazardly up and down the page and move across from being black and white to a color image. I think that was a really fun way to make your eye move across the page. I found a quote from that article about this woman who I think is a famous person, but I don't know who she is. I'm sorry. I put that quote there just because from the magazine article, just because I thought it was nice to have another little bit of text up in that right hand corner. And then I'm full obsessed with little sprinkly bits. You guys know this by now, so I'm just adding some little sprinkly bits here and there, and they can really help to move your eye across the page as well. I kind of think of them like magic pixie dust, and just sprinkle a little bit here, and then the pixies move across here, and they sprinkle a bit more, and then they float across and they sprinkle a bit more here, and it just helps your eye go from there to there to there to there. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. I love making art journal videos. I haven't made one for a little while. I've been focusing on filming some scrappy stuff, but do let me know if you like the idea of the art journal scrap lift and then the scrapbook journal lift video, because I will definitely get to filming those if you like that idea. But until the next video, I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.